Shalom, shalom, Israel. Welcome back. Your host Israel. I'll to share some knowledge with you, or I'll say some opinions for right now. You know, man, I'm just really feeling this right here. Not my music. I don't own the rights to this music, but I just want to vibe out with it right now. So Israel, man, it's just so stiff now. Alright, let's get this up. So shalom, Israel. I want to talk with you today about your salvation. Okay. When I say salvation, I mean deliverance from sin and penalty. I mean, how do we get back into the good graces of the covenant? As of right now, we're under the curses. Everybody knows that in Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. However, how the method or the procedure for us to follow to get out of this mess, out of these curses, is not really fully understood in the right context. A lot of our people think that, who follow the New Testament, they're waiting for somebody to come save them in a sense. They're waiting for, JC to come down from the sky and basically set everything straight, get rid of all their enemies or people who they perceive to be enemies, and bring them all back to Jerusalem. Then we have Torah only people, Old Testament people, as they are, called or whatever. They think that, kind of the same thing, that the Most High is just going to come here himself, which is what the scripture does say in a sense. He's going to come here himself and just bring us from where we are and return us back to our land that's currently desolate. Nobody can be in it right now, but that's a whole other argument. In my opinion, these two views are just far from the truth of the matter. You see, the thing is, I had a Bible study myself. We were thoroughly reading every book, having discussions. Right after we get done reading the chapter, we would have discussions and share thoughts, go in detail about which laws were which, and show other laws in context with it within the Torah. Right, we stuck strictly with the Torah. I'll make another video about that too. We did this for like almost 3 years straight, okay, with a group. But what I want to get at is that as far as us with our covenant, one thing that must be understood is that the curses are a part of the same covenant. And when people explain the curses, it's like they kind of make it a separate thing. But no, these curses that we're under are all a part of the same covenant that the Most High made with our ancestors and Moses. The thing is that we're just on the bad end of the deal. Okay. Another thing that is kind of overlooked is the fact that the Most High has not has kept his end of the bargain in a sense. Like he said, if you are not going to obey my laws, these curses are going to come upon you. Okay, Deuteronomy 28:15. He said, if you don't hearken unto them, if you don't listen to them, if you don't follow them, if you don't do them, if you don't respect these laws, I'm going to bring these curses upon you. And we can look outside and we can see all these curses. And we obviously know that the curses exist because this was a big part or a big piece of showing us and revealing to us who we are as Israelites. Now, the thing about that is, even though we see all these curses, and a lot of people want to dismiss the curses, and they should not dismiss the curses are a testimony to us that when we don't keep the commandments, the Most High does fulfill his end of the bargain in bringing the curses upon us. However, in context, when it is a witness and a testimony to the fact that when we do keep the commandments, if we do obey the Most High's holy voice, that all of the blessings that He promised will be revealed to us as well. Right? So how do we get to the blessings? Well, the Most High said we are to obey His holy voice. Okay? And one thing about the law that most people do not even consider is that there are implied laws, like that the Most High gave within the law. There are things that are said without being said that the Most High did say, in a sense. Okay? I'll give you an example. The Most High says that Israel is His firstborn son. Okay, in Exodus 4:22, He does not. It doesn't say anywhere that I'm Israel's father, but it's implied that He is our father because He says that we are His son, and if we're His son, it's implied that it's being said without being said that we are His son. Okay, and that's how He looks at us. And who's anybody to argue that? Nobody can argue that. The Most High said it, right? Okay, so in a sense, how do we get back to the blessings of the covenant? Again, I'm going to address this again. The implied message behind getting back to the blessings of the covenant is through Israelite family. Okay? You see, the first commandment that the Most High gave man, or Adam, was to be fruitful and multiply. Okay? We are to be fruitful and multiply in righteousness. We are to obey His holy voice. We are to, you know, build righteous families. That means that we are, as men, we are to marry wives who are righteous, who are going to keep His commandments, who are going to be obedient and cooperate with the men of God. Right? And also, it's also saying the same thing of our women is that they need to be with our men of God, the men who are seeking the Most High. Okay. If not, then we are reproducing the wickedness in the world and the enemies and traitors of Israel, in a sense. Right? So we need to be mindful of these things. Being fruitful and multiplying is neutral, in a sense. Right? Now, when you look at the law thoroughly, right, or in detail, you notice things in Deuteronomy chapter 6, where it says that we are basically 6 verses 4 through 8. Basically, the Most High is telling us to diligently teach our children to keep His commandments. When they wake up, when they lie down, when they sit down, when they stand up, when they sit down, or go up, go down, go left, go right, we're supposed to mention the Most High's commandments to our children diligently. Now, when we are leaving our children around with other people who, like, sometimes we come into the truth and it's just us, right? As far as like our relatives and siblings and brothers and sisters, they don't come into the truth with us, but we may need their hand in helping us with our own children, our own Israelite children, and sometimes just so we can go to work or make ends meet or whatever the case may be, right? And we don't think nothing of it, but when we allow these people to um, associate with our Israelite children, they can have certain influences on them. They could be celebrating the Christmas holiday, Thanksgiving, the 4th of July's, and they can be influencing the children to disregard the Most High's commandments by doing that. Our children are very fragile. Now, the way I know this for sure, and it was verified to me, because when I was reading the book of Jasher with my study group, right, I know people dismiss Jasher for really weak reasons, and one being the fact that you know people dismiss Jasher for one reason, as far as like Isaac being married to Rebecca, and the book says that Rebecca was 10 years old and Isaac was 40 years old. Now, that's not necessarily a valid reason to dismiss it, and I'm not saying that I support pedophilia or whatever the case is, right? That's not what that's about. It's about the fact that this is a 40-year-old man marrying 10-year-old girls, in the Middle East, it's something that was practiced, or it's just facts that this is something that goes on in that area of the world that and has been going on for thousands of years. Now, uh, why would a 40-year-old man back then want to marry a 10-year-old woman or whatever, or a girl? Well, you have to consider the conditions that they lived in as well. They didn't have as much medical advances as we do today. Uh, the women, the girls, somebody that at that age could possibly have a lot of children throughout her lifetime, being married at such a young age. So that may have been a plausible reason, to justify why they practice those type of things back then. I'm not saying I condone that today or anything like that, but I'm just speaking on the behalf of the ancestors who are no longer here, and I'm trying to say that that's not a reason to dismiss the Book of Jasher, because this is something that actually has been going on and is still going on to this very day. Now, another thing about that, in the Book of Jasher, Jacob in particular was on his deathbed, and I think it's chapter 56, verse 21. And he says, what he says to his children is basically, the Israelites, his sons, the patriarchs. He says, obey the Most High's commandments, keep His commandments, teach them diligently to your children, and walk in all the ways. By the time you have grandchildren, basically, the Most High will raise up a Savior from amongst you. And why does this matter? Why did this hit me so hard? Because it's a pattern. See, when we create righteous families and we raise up our children to learn the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments, and then they teach their children and the children after that, the Most High raises us up saviors, people who will be revolutionary from amongst our own children, who will have the compassion, loyalty, and knowledge and integrity to fulfill the things that they were taught, since the things that their great grandparents taught them, as far as like keeping the commandments. They will raise up a stock that wants to execute those things. And and according to the commandments, in us executing these things, it brings upon the blessings of the covenant. Now the Torah. One thing you gotta understand is that the Torah is not designed for an individual. In a sense, like, if I'm the only person in the community that keeps the Most High's commandments and obeys His holy words, that's not going to do anything. The Torah is designed for a community. It's designed for families that keep His commandments and obey His voice. It's designed for a multitude of people. Okay, it's not designed for just one person who isolates themselves and keeps and observes the Most High's commandments. It's not designed like that. Okay, and that's one thing you have to consider. There's a lot of us in the truth, we just don't like each other. You gotta get over that. That's that evil eye. That's part of the curses in the Torah. We have to develop community. We have to work together. Some families go out here, they buy land, and other people have a hard time moving to those areas and trying to help these brothers and sisters, build these lands up, right? Or these brothers build these lands up. Um, and it's because of the fact that they may have fear of, okay, well, if I don't see things the way that you see, you can end up trying to kick me out of this land that you purchased that belongs to you, you know, and then some of the landlords feel like, oh well, if I let these people move into my land, they're not going to be responsible like in the way that I want them to, and they're going to destroy my land, and my land will be worthless, and I can just build it up myself. These two views, these two arguments is one reason why I strongly advocate for plural families, which is what an Israelite family is, and Israelites need to consider this more so than anything, especially a monogamous family. Why would you be monogamous when Israel is built on polygamy? right? And just following the commandments, as far as being very diligent in teaching our children, that in the way that the commandments say that we have to, as far as teaching them at all times, when they rise up, when they lie down. I mean, you have a polygamous family with righteous, spouses. That's all they're going to be talking about to the children is keeping the Most High's commandments as they're supposed to be doing in all aspects. You need leverage. We don't have Israelite schools like that. You have to understand that we are on enemy grounds. Our enemies control the daycare centers. Our enemies control the public school systems and all that mess, right? So when we send our children to all these programs and all these things, they're being influenced 8 hours a day by our enemies' philosophies and ideas, things that are counterproductive to what we need to be teaching our children in order for them to execute the Torah. And if we don't do what the Torah says do, as far as obeying the Most High's voice, we are not going anywhere. And that's my strong opinion. We will stay here. And the reason why I know this is because it's already been longer than 400 years. And people always say, oh, well, 400 years, when it's up, the Most High is going to come get us and bring us back to the land. We've already been here over 450 years. We've been here nearly 500 years. So what does that tell me? That tells me that the Most High is waiting on us to fulfill our end of the bargain of the covenant. And he's going to keep it that way until we wake up and do what we're supposed to do, embrace our culture wholeheartedly. Now, the only way that I feel that this can ever be possible is if we build polygamous families. Now, the thing about polygamy is like you gotta have there's no rule book, right? And that's what's kind of scary for most people. But if you examine it's you not so it's not something that should be done off of ego. Okay, it's not something where a brother shouldn't be saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this because I'm going to feel good and I'm going to be a man now or something." It's not about that. It's about duty. It's about raising up a righteous family that's going to keep the commandments, obey the holy voice, so that we can reproduce our community and strengthen it, create defenses and fortify. Right now, man, the way how things are set up, as far as like monogamy culture, the main problem with monogamy right now is that it is not taught by us. It's something that has been spoon fed to us. And every aspect of what we know about it has been taught to us by our enemies. Even since the time of slavery. Our people used to jump the broom. They couldn't legally get married, but they would jump the broom, and our ancestors wanted to be like the white masters who were married. And that's a problem because what's good for our enemies does not necessarily mean that it's good for us. See, they were practicing monogamy in a dynamic where this is their government, this is their system, and monogamy is a great way for them to exchange their inheritance amongst their own people and the way how they function. It's all designed for the advancement of their race. Whereas that may not be the dynamic for us. See, Israel is a nation that is built on polygamy. Okay, you can look it up. Luke 4:11. Jacob had 4 wives. All right, his granddaddy Abraham had multiple. He had 2 wives and multiple women. All right. So the thing is, that's a part of our culture. Polygamy is something that has brought success to our ancestors and to our nation. Okay, the Most High doesn't give us things like a lot of people say, well, it's your choice if you want to do that or not. No, the Most High has only given us 2 choices. He said, choose life or death. Okay, and He wants us to choose life. But what does it mean to choose life? It means that we have a duty of righteousness, keeping the commandments. It is choosing life. All right. Now, if we have, we don't need everybody, but We need a few of us to get this done the right way. We need a few of us to be committed to these type of things as far as like building righteous families. Because for the most part, these monogamists, they're out here, they're reproducing the traitors and the future traitors and enemies of Israel. They're reproducing that because them being by themselves make themselves vulnerable, and they open the philosophy of the enemy to infiltrate their children's minds because they're outnumbered, right? At least with a polygamy family, you have leverage now. There's two, three, four parents in the household dealing with the children. I had before I came into the truth, I had my children in private school. Okay? And one of the benefits of having my children in private school was the fact that they always had more, like they would have like 5, 6 teachers in the classroom dealing with, like 8 or 9 children. And the benefit of that is that the children were able to deal with teachers like on hand, like one on one. So the teachers will be solely responsible for the education of the child, like his development, right? And that was supposed to be such an advancement, and it was like being closely taught by a teacher like that really advanced my children who were in private school at the time, my older children, and they've excelled academically with those type of experiences. Okay, so I don't mean to get personal, but that's the reality of it. These are the things that we can take into our own community. You see, when the Most High says in Deuteronomy 30 that He wants us to obey His voice, He wants us to keep His commandments, and He also says that before we can even go back, we need to teach this diligently to our children. So there's an implied message there that we are to build righteous families, because where are the children going to come from in verse 2 of Deuteronomy 30? They come from righteous families. Okay? Not not families that got a wicked spouse or something like that. Because if you got a wicked spouse, I mean, what are they going to teach Israelite children? They're going to teach them wickedness, how to not keep the Most High's commandments, why they shouldn't be doing it. Our children don't need them type of influences. We have to develop a sense of urgency as far as being with righteous people. Like our righteous sisters should all be married to righteous brothers who keep the commandments. And they shouldn't be doubting men of God like how they do out here. And I think that from what I see, they do that because they be dealing with the wicked dudes. There's a lot of dudes pretending to be really about the truth, and they just not. Okay, but if you polygamous, you shouldn't have them type of problems, because the wife of a polygamous family is the first witness. You need 2 witnesses in Torah. So you got a wife testimony saying, "Hey, I got a good husband," and then you can see in the deeds that he take care of his wife, right? You can see in those deeds and those are 2 witnesses and a testimony that that's a righteous family. Why would our ancestors never said, "Hey, I'm not going to join a righteous family," like how people be saying today? You don't lose when you join a righteous family. You're not losing when you marry a righteous man who's seeking the Most High, you know. And our people hesitate on that. Our ancestors never hesitated to marry a righteous man like how people be doing today. That means you have something that you got to deal with. Why are you hesitating to marry a righteous man? Same thing with brothers. Why are you hesitating to marry righteous sisters? That's a winner, man. And that's what we need to develop saviors in our community. It's a duty we have. And duty should overcome ego. If you're not putting duty and righteousness before your ego, then we're gonna lose. And that's why we keep losing. So the message today is to get your families together. Um, There is no choice as far when you're righteous. There is no choice. It's like, oh, you can be monogamous, or you can be polygamous. Like, no. If you on board with Israel, you need to be polygamous. We don't have churches. We don't have the resources that the Christian community has as Israelites. And we don't want them because that's not how. That's not going to develop our salvation or bring us to the good graces of the covenants to be like Christians. We're Israelites. We need to do things the Israelite way. And the Israelite way is to be polygamous and build polygamy families. Who cares what anybody else says? You with a man right now talking about he not talking about polygamy. He say yeah Israelite. Man, he don't know what he talking about. Okay, he probably is up to something if he's not trying to be polygamous and he's an Israelite. Real talk. Because you got to have a plural family to even keep these commandments properly. Look at Leviticus 15. The hygiene of your wife ain't even like together as a monogamous. You following Leviticus 15 and 19, your woman, when she's on her cycle, she's supposed to be separated from you 7 days a week out the month. Okay, if you monogamous and she with you all the time, you ain't keeping the commandments already. All right. And there's several other things about like that. All right. At least if you have the leverage, if you have extra wife, another wife and extra wives or whatever the case may be, and you're a plural family. If one of your wives is out because she's on a cycle, then you have somebody else come in and fulfill those duties, right, on her behalf, and keep things going, and not have to slow down. All right, but that's all I have to say for today. We will I might make another video tomorrow about something else. But with that being said, thank you for listening. Subscribe and shalom.